Welcome to the Vibrant Life podcast. This is the official podcast of the Vibrant Life community. And I'm Sarah Nolan, and I'm here today with Bella and Natalia. Thank you so much for being here, Bella.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I'm really excited for our conversation and for our chat.
Yeah, we have had the best conversation so far. And I was like, we should just start recording this now because I feel like people would benefit from hearing all of this. Hold on. So I just had to, we just had to fix our connection because we were just talking about how Zoom is going crazy with all of the folks doing Zoom calls, and so just think that's an amazing addition to our topic today. Our topic is the opportunity of COVID-19. And right now, as we're recording this, this is March 31st. There's a lot of fear mongering still going on about the situation. And of course, there is the shock that everybody's in. There is, the reality of devastation. There are very challenging situations that people are in. But we've just been talking for about a half an hour about the opportunities, the amazing, transformational, life-changing opportunities that are here before us now. So I want to share with you what Bella and I have been chatting about, and Bella's got an amazing perspective on this. So Bella, can you introduce yourself and share a little bit about this new project that you and your clients are doing?
Yeah, sure. So, as we were chatting about, I've been in the transformation space, but also the online world since 2009. Scaled a couple of e-com businesses and have worked with over 1,000 entrepreneurs, primarily in the transformation space and primarily women, but that's trickled into other verticals many times over. I've worked with products. I've worked with people who are launching programs. I've worked with deliverable goods. So I've worked through many different types of services and offers within that time, and I've been very fortunate over the last decade. But what I'm really finding much joy in right now, and where things have just stepped up to another level, is in people's ability to innovate and people's ability to pivot. So when, really when us in the States, we were kind of hit with the first big realization of, oh, this is actually something that we have to start to pay attention to because the numbers are growing exponentially. They're growing 30%. We had a period of 3 or 4 days where we went from there was just a few handful of cases in the United States and there were pocketed areas, to all of a sudden the whole country shut down. And life as we know it's flipped on its head. And during that time, one of my clients, who has a dance wear company, she has a festival wear company, she went from gearing up for her peak season, where she makes about 1/3 to 1/2 of her income annually, to all of a sudden not having a season because all of the festivals, live events, and performances were canceled. And so having these conversations and kind of having eyes into the collective pulse of what was happening, we recognized a huge need for a pivot. So this particular client, over the last 7 days, and with a lot of hands on deck and with a lot of support, we've completely taken her entire operations and have pivoted it to a medical supply company. So we are providing PPE. It started out with surgical style cloth face masks and a core team of about 10 on the ground, coordinating supply chain demand and logistics. And within a period of 7 days, very shortly, we now have a team of over 200 employees. We have, I think in total, we have about 25 experts consulting and working on this matter as a collective. So we have health experts, we have a few MDs, we have supply chain directors, we have logistic coordinators of international operations. We are having certified medical grade supplies come our way. And so within a very short period of time, we've gone from, being a small mom and pop for a luxury product and for a fashion product to actually supplying a critical need in a time of critical demand. So it's been the biggest whirlwind. It has been the biggest, pivot that I've personally experienced in a position, but I think it's a testament to the human spirit that literally we have about, a core team of 25, and we have over 200 people now coming together, strapping their resources together, putting our minds and brains and our network together to mobilize us to literally get millions of face masks into people's hands. And I think it's a testament to the human spirit. It's a testament to the feminine. Our team is primarily female. And, there's just been so many highs. These girls are working 16, 17, 18-hour days. I'm working 16, 17, 18-hour days around the clock. And there's been just so many tears of joy at the impact and opportunity that's been created here that would have never come about had this crisis not happened.
Bella, that is incredible that you're able to, shift and pivot so fast. Can you tell us how long from the time your client figured out or you all figured out there was an issue to the time? You said you have over 200 people working on this. So what was that time period like?
Yeah, so, it started with the realization, and I want to say that this was about the first week of March, that they had already had some of these performance masks in stock for live performances. So for people going to festivals or people who doing Cirque du Soleil or, the country or the parent company is based out of Hong Kong and in Asia, it's actually pretty customary to travel with masks on due to their population crisis. It isn't stigmatized like it is in Western culture and Western society. So in Asia, it's actually quite common that you have a fashion face mask as part of your going out gear. So she was already a mask supplier. She already had these more fashion style masks. And in the beginning of March, we saw kind of a spike in the fashion masks. And then a couple weeks passed and there started being all these like Chinese whispers around personal protection equipment and a shortage of personal protection equipment. And in the meantime, her core business, her usual product offerings, her best sellers started not to sell because basically overnight, every single major event, production, show, festival got canceled. Spring, summer, fall is heavy festival season, particularly in the Western world. So all of a sudden, overnight, within a period of 48 hours, that's not happening. All of a sudden, she's looking at, like I said, about 50% of her income and of her gross revenue just disappearing. So, she kind of was in the space of, I don't really know what to do. I don't know what I'm going to do about my business. She actually tried to dismiss her core team, so her actual employees of the workshop, and she is a sustainable and ethical workshop, so they're paid fair wages. They've been working with her for 7 years. They're like family to her. And, apparently she went to them in tears and was like, "Hey guys, I'm so sorry, but, you can't come to work anymore because I can't pay you." And this woman is such an angel and she has done such good work with them that they actually said, "No, don't worry about it. We still want to show up. We want to work for free." So that was the start of it. And then within a period of 24 hours, we had kind of hopped on this triage call on the phone together. And I basically just painted the picture. Because they're in Asia Pacific, they're not privy to the same kinds of news information that I am, being based out of Southern California right now. So I, kind of sat down with them and I said, "Hey, do you realize what's going on? Do you understand what's happening out there?" And they go, "No, what do you mean?" And I basically just sent them screenshot after screenshot after article after article of, these sound bites of President Trump asking people to wash their masks and basically having people to sew hand face masks and deliver them, and all of this talk around, a supply chain crisis internationally. So I think when we first started, it was like, okay, let's just pivot. Let's just put your workers on face masks. Here's the surgical cut. And I think the timeline between that and just deciding that this was a pivot that we were going to make, and then I think it was no more than 72 hours later, we had three MDs consulting. We had a doctor who was basically a crisis management expert for Ebola outbreaks in Africa, who's with Doctors Without Borders. He came on as a consultant on an advisory board. We had medical doctors out of the US come on as part of our advisory board and our design board. And since then, it's just been this snowball effect. She was able to leverage her already existing community. So they created co-op spaces. And like I said, in a period of 7 to 10 days now, I don't even think it's been 14. All of a sudden, we have international operations going to supply critical goods. And there's been so much demand and so little supply that we can't even keep track of everything that's happening right now. So it's been an unbelievable, surreal experience.
And that's so inspirational too. What an opportunity for these people who potentially were out of work before and now they suddenly have a job. And you were mentioning before, Bella, before we started recording, about how this is kind of the collective feminine coming forward. And look at what's happening. I mean, look at what's happening with this company where all of a sudden your client is like nurturing the world with the PPE stuff, What are some other ways that you've seen that where you've seen just through your clients and through businesses around you how and individuals, how we are just naturally gravitating towards this more feminine energy and feminine approach to things?
Sarah, or I'm sorry, Christine, we had talked about this. I was talking about this with my friend Sarah, and we were saying how what we're noticing right now, right? What we were saying is we are in a space of there's so much beingness right now, right? So there's so much of a need to slow down, and there's such a profound need to just kind of sit in whatever you need to sit in. So it's like if you've ever had shiny object syndrome or anything that could distract you from the outside world, it's just gone. Like it's not there for you to access anymore, and not in the way that it was. So one of the things that you and I had talked about, Sarah, is that, and what I had talked to the other Sarah about on a webinar yesterday was that we're in a space where, you see a prime minister of a whole country sit on her bed and do a Facebook Live on how the country is going to handle COVID-19. And granted, it's a small country, but there's this collective need for nurture right now that I don't think we've seen before, at least not in recent history. And I think because of the innovations of the internet and of technology, it's not that we haven't been through world crises before. It's not that we haven't been through world wars. It's not that we haven't been through pandemics. It's not that we've been through potential health crises. It's not that we've been through, as a collective, as a world collective, we haven't been through economic collapse before. But what we're seeing for the first time is we're seeing all of this happening in an age where we can still stay completely interconnected by virtue of the internet. So the narratives that we are hearing aren't necessarily those that are Chinese whispers on the street or just in your collective neighborhood or just coming from the TV or the news sources. People are actually in constant communication with each other, which we haven't seen before. And I think because of that, and I think because people are forced into kind of coming home, staying home, and going within, you're seeing a couple things happen. You're seeing the creativity happen. You're seeing the innovation happen. but you're also seeing the heart-led leadership where now we're experiencing, a kind of a collective cognitive dissonance and PTSD. And like I said, it's crazy because I've never felt that having a feminine style leadership or being self-serving to, really to focus on femininity as part of a business model. I never thought in a million years that it would spike so rapidly, but it has, and it's because people need that right now.
And I love what you said about the feminine style leadership and the heart led businesses. This topic is the opportunity of COVID-19, and for everybody who is listening right now, and you haven't already done it, or you haven't done it to the scope of your abilities, it's like now is the time to tap into that feminine leadership style, because that's what people are really needing right now. People are needing to be nurtured. Like people, gosh, there's so much fear and all of the insecurities are rising to the surface. And I think a lot of people, to get, a little bit on the emotional, spiritual side, a lot of people are feeling that inner child and feeling kind of that scared child inside of them. They're probably not talking about it, but it's there, because suddenly everything that they knew was just, ripped out beneath them, and everything is different now. Everything is different now. And so people are really craving nurturement. People are really craving, just feeling like everything's going to be okay. And I think that's what that feminine leadership style has the potential to offer. There was a amazing opportunity that I noticed. I have a family. I have a husband and 2 kids, and I'm in a lot of groups, a lot of circles of other parents. And what I've noticed is these families are coming together for the first time ever, meaning the children are seeing their parents more than they ever have in their life, other than possibly maternity leave, in the first couple of weeks of life. Worldwide, and especially in America right now, children are seeing their parents more than ever. And just think of the impact that that's going to have on them. They're never going to be the same after this. My family, my husband quit his job, and I work, I can work from anywhere because I have an online company. We traveled full time in a travel trailer for a year, and my kids saw their dad. We also homeschool. So they're used to seeing me all the time. That wasn't new. But they saw their dad all the time. They saw their dad more than they ever had before. And they developed this bond that they never experienced before. I mean, I had never seen them so connected with him. And when he went back to work, they were devastated, but not in a bad way. It was like, they just really missed him, and they really grew this appreciation for spending time with him. They crave, spending time with him now, where before they didn't know any different. And so, it's like, oh, daddy's off to work. Okay, that's just like part of the routine. But now, even today, it's been a couple of years, and it's still a really big deal when he has to go to work. So they're loving having him back home again. But there are so many of these little things that are happening that are major opportunities for transformation if people choose to accept that as the destiny of it. Bella, can you share some of the ways that you have been seeing innovation in companies in the past few weeks?
Yes. So I think, and this had already started, right?
Mm-hmm.
My biggest passion for the last decade has been working and supporting women, particularly women in business. And it had started a little bit before, but I know one of the things that has been absolutely humbling and just amazing for me is speaking to men in leadership of all different types of backgrounds, of all different types of experience. I sat across the table when this was just starting. I sat across the table from, somebody who has been a staple in Silicon Valley for, years, since Silicon Valley became a thing. He was part of the branding conversations of they were going to create this place called Silicon Valley and tell this story about the tech startup community in SF, right? And I sat across from this man and he looked at me and he said, I really have to tell you something. He said to me, I really believe that the way of our future is through women. And I really believe that women are inherently much more equipped for a 21st century world than us as men are. And in the past few weeks, I have had that echoed to me by so many men of so many different ages, and the level of respect, support, and really, speaking to people who have years of business acumen and them getting on the phone and saying, hey, we don't really know what to do here. What do you think? We're looking to you for the leadership. We're looking to you for the innovation. We're looking to you to answer these questions that involve consciousness and emotionality and mindfulness and intuitive intelligence and flexibility and all these things. That to me has been absolutely profound, right? It's been the most humbling experience, but it's also just a testament to where we are in the world. The world needs nurture. And Sarah, I think you said it best. It's like you have this experience of being completely detached and going traveling and quitting your job and giving up the material world and taking a look at your internal world with your family and with your kiddos. But I think for the first time, particularly for many men, but then also for many people, this is the first time where literally there's concrete physical routines and realities have had a major shakeup, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think we're in a space where we're going to see more and more of this innovation and softness happening, and it's just so exciting.
It is so exciting. Do you have any specific tips or wisdom for people who have not yet fully accepted the opportunity of this and transitioning into like, hey, I can actually make this work to my favor. I can actually thrive and come out even stronger through this.
Well, I think first and foremost, and you know this because you're an expert in mindset and intuitive and in some ways spiritual intelligence, right? It's like first recognize that it's okay that you're experiencing cognitive dissonance and you're experiencing trauma. I mean, on a collective level, what's happening right now is very traumatizing, and I would actually argue that there's a fine line between staying informed by the media and basically being fear mongered into further trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And fear. So accept the fact that it's totally okay that, you're freaking out because this is a traumatic situation on a global level. But then second, if this is your first time where, all of your ish has hit the fan and you're dealing with this kind of almost existential crisis of what is life as I've known it is flipped on its head. My concept of safety has been severely compromised or flipped on its head. And now I'm experiencing fear and anxiety. If you are having those feelings and it's really paralyzing you or it's haunting you and it's haunting your consciousness, link up with somebody who has done this before, because they might not have done this before at a global level, but you and I were talking about this before. I think, there's certainly a breed of us where we've gone through that trauma and that narrative personally in many ways. So if you don't feel strong right now, lean on people who are strong, who are sure, who do know where they're going. And maybe they don't know the outcome collectively, because I don't think any of us have that, but lean on people who at least say, hey, I've gotten through worse, I've navigated worse storms. Let's, I'll help you figure it out, and leverage your network. I have had the best conversations with my girlfriends over the past couple weeks. I feel like I've had more connection and more heart to hearts than I've had in 5 years. just calling, checking on each other. How are you? What'd you eat? How are you feeling? Are you happy? Are you sad? Leverage community, leverage like-minded people, and don't feel like you have to go at this alone, and don't feel like you have to cling to, newscasters or TV reports or, any of the mainstream network. Find your solace in people right now.
I love that so much, Bella. That's gosh, the thing that came to mind when you were talking about leveraging your community is, they call it social distancing, but nobody here's alone. Even the people who, in fact, we're more connected than we ever were before, hence the reason that Zoom is kind of tweaking out right now. My mom, I just got off a Zoom call with my mom trying to learn Zoom to run meetings for her company. So we're really not alone. And in the physical sense, we can connect with anyone we want anywhere in the world, and what a gift that is. And I keep thinking back, well, not my own personal memory of the yellow fever, but thinking back in history about the yellow fever, we didn't have Costco back then. We didn't have like trucks to bring supplies around the country back then. We didn't have, of course, the technologies like internet and things like that. This is a totally different situation than something like that, than any other time in life. So definitely, tapping into those communities, and also connecting inward. You are not alone spiritually either. And some people connect with God, some people connect with the universe, spirit, whatever that is for you. There is a higher power that you can connect with. It might be nature. You can go out for a walk, take your family on a walk, go by yourself on a walk, and just be present with that higher power that is orchestrating the synchronicity and the perfection that is really underlying all of this. And in my experience, when I connect with that higher power, I'm able to easily see the gifts. I'm able to easily see the perfection, and allow me to open my eyes up more to the opportunities, and grasp those opportunities and ride them. So connection, that's, connecting outward and connecting inward, I think is huge right now.
I think you're so right. And I think that, the work that you're doing and working on a corporate level to help calm people's internal storm and assist with mindfulness. I mean, I think, and I'm a big believer, let's not bypass what's happening, right?
Right.
And that's a big thing for me too. Like, this is 100% very real. The collective trauma is real, but, from any great shakeup, we have two options. We can either lay down in the dirt and take it and stay in a hole and collapse, or we move through it. And I think collectively we're all being called to, tap into our own internal spiritual landscape. And whether you want to say, you're doing the metamorphosis of the butterfly or the lotus flower, or you're having a rebirth, or I don't know, you're clinging to your faith or your inspiration or your hope to build character through trying times. It's really important that you hold that sense of resilience and perseverance and everything that makes the human spirit and the human soul so brilliant, right? It's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you have brought up accepting the trauma, and the reality of that. For me, even I'm a expert in trauma, personally and professionally, and because things are going so well in my world, I forget the reality that there's even trauma for me right now. Like every so often, maybe once a day or once every other day, I'll have this reality check with myself. It's like, holy crap, like this is real, and it's like, I just did a live video the other day, and I'm going to be creating a training around this pretty soon, of the grieving process, and how, we're doing great, but at the same time, we're missing out on a lot of really important activities for the family, and friends and things like that. And that's very real. So even as somebody who, like, I help with trauma healing all the time, constantly, and I'm very present with the fact that I can feel that trauma working in my life right now. And so that is a gift. I think that's a privilege to have that awareness, that where the trauma is actively coming from in the moment, and being present with it. And I know, Bella, you have some experience with trauma personally, and we don't need to get into all the details of that on this call, but could you share with us some of the wisdom that you gained from that, and
Yeah, I
and
mean,
maybe offer some strategies for people who are listening?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that in life, we always have an opportunity to, and I'm very careful about this because being in the transformation space for so long, there is some new age or some, love and light, what I call diet spirituality, that can get a little gaslighty.
I love that.
And so, it literally, it's like, diet spirituality. It's like
Mm-hmm.
fast food spirituality, right? Where it's like everything that happens to you, you caused it. And that's absolutely not true. That's BS, right? And, at the same time, we can either let these experiences that happen to us strengthen us and fortify us, or they can cripple us. And some days, the trauma that you experience might feel overwhelming. And some days it might be, I'm getting emotional just talking about this. And some days it might be, you know, hard to see how to derive or draw meaning out of your experience, be it, physical trauma, physical violation, an emotional trauma, financial trauma, a spiritual trauma. There's so many things that we can experience in this life that rock us, tear us down, and strip us, kind of strip us, and not in a radical vulnerability way, but more in of a like a, oh my God, who am I? Who was I? What is even happening in this world today? And I think that's a lot of the collective cognitive dissonance we're experiencing. I feel like a lot of people are getting dissociative and having existential crisis right now out there, right? Where it's like, what is this world that we're suddenly living in? And when your mind experiences that kind of trauma, when your heart and soul experience that kind of trauma, it can be very daunting.
Mm-hmm.
And my best advice is that, allow yourself the grace to feel that, allow yourself to dig into that void and actually sit with it. But then, right, and this is the most important part, don't allow yourself to stay there. Even if it's just one little glimmer of hope, even if it's just, for people in financial trauma right now, even if it's just like one maybe idea or one maybe spark of inspiration of, hey, this is really hard right now, but there's this thing that could possibly a thing, and I don't really know if it's a thing, and I don't really know if it will work out. This kind of feels good to me right now. I'm going to lean towards it. I think the more you can take incremental steps towards what lights you up, what makes you feel good, and connect with people who light you up and make you feel good, that's how you crawl out of it. That's how you crawl out of the darkness. And if you just continue to put one foot in front of the other day after day, step by step, then, and keep walking forward, keep your eyes straight ahead. You take so many steps, and you all of a sudden you realize you walk at that 1,000 steps, and you're not in the same place of crisis that you were 2, 3, 4 months ago, a year ago, whatever it may be for you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's, especially for the high achievers out there who want to take on, the whole thing. They want to take these leaps and bounds right now. I love that advice of just taking one step at a time and trusting that process and knowing that you will overcome and you will get there. And without the burnout, without the overwhelm of the process, when you just take it that one step at a time.
Yeah. And it's really just, I can't articulate enough support, community, community. Finding people who understand you and who can help you. And it's not, and I know a lot of people say, well, my family is supporting me, or my partner is supporting me, or find support beyond one person, because no one person is going to be able to support you in every facet of your life. Exactly. So try to, just like you might diversify a product portfolio, diversify your support network, right? The person you go to for, and this might sound slightly provocative, but the person you go to for emotional support might not be the person you go to for romantic support, might not be the person you go to for intellectual support, might not be the person you go to for business support, might not be the person you go to for sister support. So create a life where you're really well nourished, right? And we should have this all the time. Every human, I believe, has a divine right to have this nourishment. But in times of crisis, it's like you were talking about, Sarah, you have this opportunity where all of a sudden you really realize where you were in lack of that nourishment, and a magnifying glass is shown on it. So find your people, lean on your people, and allow yourself to feel held during that. And if you can't find your people, put yourself out there and ask, because right now more than ever, people really want to help.
Oh my gosh, yes. Now is the time to ask, and nobody's going to judge. Nobody's going to look at you as less than because you asked. In fact, there's a lot of respect in somebody asking. So I would encourage that as well. Oh my gosh, Bella, thank you so much for joining us today. And this is so perfect. It was perfect timing and perfect segue into really what's going on in the world. I really appreciate everything that you brought to our show today.
Thank you so much. Again, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for holding the space to facilitate this conversation, because these types of conversations need to be held. There's just so much floating around the collective dialogue and the collective narrative. And I think the more we can create light and provide spaces where people feel some inspiration or support or some alternative perspective, it's so important. So, it's a testament to who you are and the work that you do. And I'm just really grateful that you had me on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And Bella, if people want to learn more about you and connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
You can go to www.meet with Q as in quattro.com. It's a quick chat link. You can schedule a 30-minute chat with me. I'm very informal. So there's no fancy schmancy. You go through a 10-step funnel and all of a sudden you might get a chance to talk to me. People are like, I really get to talk to you for this long up front. And I'm like, yeah, you really do. I'll really spend an hour with you and you don't have to pay me anything. So I love to have those conversations. And like I said, more than ever, I've just been talking to so many people, which really is, my nourishment and how I like to show up in these spaces. So go ahead, go to www.meetwithblq.com, whether it's, for spiritual, emotional, or just kind of business support. And if I don't have the answer, I can most definitely point you in the direction of someone who can.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I'll add that into the notes as well. So everybody
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Yes, you're welcome. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and please feel free to reach out. Especially, oh my gosh, Bella just gave you her personal chat line. So if you're feeling inspired and resonant with this conversation, then reach out to her right away. Like, just do it now. You don't have anything to lose, and she will be able to help. I mean, gosh, she has such a profound background and experience base that she's going to be able to help you. So go do that, and we will talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank